Greetings Exiles, I'm Cod Raziel, and today I'm just going to go over my Dragon-Jooced Righteous Fire Occultist. First off, this build is kind of meant for decently speed clearing the higher tier maps, without really being that great at doing things like Uber Elder and Shaper and what have you. It's also pretty good at delving. Now, the reasons I did this occultist are twofold. First of all, I've never done an occultist, and second of all of this minion damage scaling shenanigans that you can do now really work for a Righteous Fire occultist, since you can scale Profane Bloom. In addition to that, I wanted to use this chest, which allows me to 6-link Righteous Fire. So without any further ado, let's just go over the Ascendancy really quickly. First up, we picked up Wicked Ward. This gives us 100 extra energy shield, and also has the modifier energy shield recharge is not interrupted by damage if recharge began recently. So for 4 seconds after your energy shield recharge begins, you basically get a huge boost in regeneration. I'm talking crazy boost in regeneration. Before, this wouldn't really have been a thing for a Righteous Fire build. You'd pretty much just gain the maximum energy shield, since turning off Righteous Fire was a bit of a hassle. But now, with the new instant Righteous Fire changes, it's possible to, with the right timing, get Wicked Ward up just before you enter a dangerous battle or whatever the case is. It's a really nice thing to have now. Next, we picked up Vile Bastion. And this is pretty much why this build is sort of focused around clearing. And that's because we get an extra 150 energy shield, and in addition to that, we get 1% of energy shield regenerated per second for each enemy you or your minions have killed recently, up to 30%, and cannot be stunned while you have energy shield. So we don't have to worry about stun immunity, although we have with the amulet, but the 1% regen stacks up really quickly when you're killing monsters and makes you just all the more tanky. Another cool thing about the occultist is Profane Bloom. First off, our curses can apply to hexproof enemies, meaning we can curse in curse immune maps. Next, we have cursed enemies you or your minions kill have a 25% chance to explode, dealing a quarter of their maximum life as chaos damage. Now, this is scaled in this build to be as close to 100% as I could manage, and what results is a chain of explosions because we're using a curse on hit pair of Corrupted Shaper's Touch. So this really helps us with the clearing quite a lot. Lastly, we have Malediction. This gives us an additional curse and increases the effect of our curses, as well as making our enemies take a bit more damage and deal a bit less damage. The extra chaos damage thingy doesn't really apply to us, since we're dealing damage over time. Going over the passive tree really quickly, just for notable things. We pick up Zealot's Oath so that our life regeneration applies to our energy shield. We pick up Spiritual Aid so that we can take advantage of minion damage. We pick up Holy Fire because it's the strongest source of Righteous Fire damage on the tree. We pick up Spiritual Command so we have more ways to scale our attack speed, to move faster with shield charge. We pick up Elemental Overload because it's basically a 40% more multiplier for our Righteous Fire. Elemental Equilibrium is taken because it reduces the enemy's resistances substantially when they're hit by Orb of Storms or our shield charge. We pick up Pain Attunement because we are always on low life, and our Cold Snap can just do a little bit more damage this way. You don't have to pick this up, it's completely optional. And the rest is all just regeneration, aura effectiveness, and energy shield. In this build, we are using a Watcher's Eye with chaos resistance while affected by Purity of Elements, and energy shield regenerated per second while affected by Discipline. This just helps us when our Dragon-Jooced is down, as well as giving us a little bit of extra energy shield regeneration. One more notable cluster we take is Essence Surge, so that we have to wait less before we turn our Righteous Fire back on. The full passive tree will be available in the description in the form of a path of building link. So let's go over the gear. First of all, the body armor that I'm using for this build was crafted with etheric fossils, which are more caster mods, and dense fossils. Now, the etheric fossils give us access to the socketed gems are supported by level 1 arcane surge, which allows us to 6-link our righteous fire without losing a link. Next we have presence of Chayula. This makes us immune to stun, which we kind of already are, but it also converts 20% of our maximum life to energy shield, and gives us 60% chaos resistance, which is great for a low life build, especially if you're dragon-juicing or not using a Chevron's wrappings. We use a bone helmet to further scale our minion damage, which scales our profane bloom and our righteous fire. This isn't a very good one, but it works, so I'm pretty much keeping it. We use Saffel's frame to help with sustaining righteous fire, as well as making us more tanky against elemental damage, and boosting our maximum chaos resistance to 79, which is pretty easily reached with the Watcher's Eye and a presence of Chayula. For our weapon, I've picked the Scourge Claw. I was using a bound fossil crafted weapon, but the Scourge gives us 15% minion attack speed as well as having attack speed on it as well, which means that it's probably the fastest way to move if you have the minion attack speed node. We use the Shaper's Touch corrupted with elemental weakness on hit. These are fairly expensive. I paid 1 exalt for these. And these just help propagate our profane bloom so that we can create explosions that spread across the whole screen and look awesome. For our belt, we're using an energy shield and energy shield recovery rate belt that also has 16% increased energy shield from body armor. This comes from a dense fossil and it boosts our chest armor's energy shield substantially. My boots again are Duyani's Delusion. This is just an easy way to get a high level purity of fire, as well as being a pretty solid pair of boots. I said before that this is a 5-link for your Enlighten. It is not. I was mistaken on that case, but it still gives us a free socket. Now our rings are just chaos resistance, and energy shield opal rings with faster start of energy shield recharge crafted from Leo. This is just to, again, lower the time we need to wait before we turn our righteous fire back on again. This was crafted with a prismatic fossil and as such has a remarkable amount of elemental damage, despite not having much else. Lastly, let's just quickly go over our flasks. We're using Coruscating Elixir or Dragon-Jooced paired with a Seething Hallowed Life flask of Staunching. We don't have much life on this build, so the Dragon-Jooced doesn't really heal us by much, but it does still protect us from chaos damage and allows us to get high fire resistance for an extremely long duration, and turn off righteous fire long enough to trigger the Soul of Arakali buff, as well as the Wicked Ward buff. We then use a Witchfire Brew, which increases our damage over time and grants us a Despair Curse aura. This allows us to save on a Blasphemy, and it has a pretty nice AoE for spreading the explosions. Next up, we use an Alchemist's Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline. This is popular among speed clearing builds as it's quite substantially faster than chemists, and this just makes us run fast. Lastly, we have an Experimenter's Granite Flask of Heat. This is for freeze immunity as well as a bit of physical mitigation. Lastly, let's just go over the gem links really quickly. First of all, in our chest, our Righteous Fire setup is Righteous Fire, linked with Efficacy, Elemental Focus, Concentrated Effect, Swift Affliction, Burning Damage, and of course the Arcane Surge from the chest, which means that Swift Affliction works. One thing worth noting is that I haven't really switched out Concentrated Effect for increased area of effect at any point, because Profane Bloom clears so nicely. We don't really need to do that. Next, in our shield, we have Discipline, linked with Empower and Blood Magic. As your Blood Magic levels, you'll notice your life increasing, and once it increases past the threshold of low life, then you can equip the Empower. In our weapon, we have Summon Holy Relic, linked with Elemental Proliferation and Combustion. What this does is it allows our Holy Relic to ignite things and proliferate the combustion minus 19% to fire resistance. In our gloves, we have Cold Snap, Orb of Storms, and Summon Stone Golem, all linked to faster casting. These are utility skills for keeping elemental focus up, and also for generating frenzy charges and getting a bit more regeneration. In our helm, we have Shield Charge, linked with Fortify, faster attacks, and Onslaught. I was hoping that I would deal enough damage with my Shield Charge to kill things and maybe get Onslaught. It wasn't so effective. You would probably switch this with a high quality Culling Strike. Lastly, in our boots, we have Purity of Elements, Vitality, and Flame Dash, linked with Enlighten. The Flame Dash is this there because I needed a free socket for it, and it helps us cross gaps, since we're using Shield Charge as a movement skill. So that about wraps this build up. I really did enjoy playing it. I did miss the physical mitigation that I got from the Guardian and from my previous Righteous Fire builds, but at the same time the clear speed on this one was just phenomenal. I think that there is a chance that in mid-tier content the Trickster will outperform this one, but for general mapping and getting your Atlas done and stuff like that, this build was a pleasure to play. And I'll definitely be keeping my eyes on changes to this particular build and seeing what we can do in future leagues. Oh, and lastly, as for Pantheon, we have Soul of Arakali with Arachnoxia captured for that 50% increased recovery rate of life and energy shield. And Soul of Shikari. Poison is one of the most dangerous things to us because it's easy to go unnoticed. So we just pick up some poison immunity and that's not a problem anymore. Another option here would be Soul of Abarath if you're doing content where there is no chaos damage present. So that is really it for this build. So I'd like to thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed the video, then please hit that like button. And if you'd like to see more build guides and content like this, then do hit that subscribe button. Next up, I'll be doing the Trickster, which is level 67 as of recording this video. The Trickster will be using the Grey Spire staff as well as a Queen of the Forest chest while still being an energy shield build, so that should be really interesting. And that is it. Thanks for watching, good luck, and stay juicy. Dragon-Jooced.